Madini Mazimba.
Madini Mazimba.
Madini Mazimba.
Inendri msalala. Inendri msalala.
Madini Mazimba, back again, and today I'll be sharing with you my views and thoughts on Bryan K's latest album titled Evolution K. So if you watch my previous video, I promise I'll be giving you a video review for those but if you want a more in-depth review of my thoughts and views on Bryan K's Evolution K album, just head on to my blog proudzimbo.blogspot.com and you can read a more in-depth review. Now, I became a fan of Bryan K in 2015 when he released his debut album titled Zerudo. I enjoyed listening to that album. Even up to now, I still listen to a lot of the tracks from that album. If you ask me, quoting the year of 2015, which were your best two albums, I would definitely say Bryan K Zerudo and Janet Manyowa's King of Glory. Those two albums, they really made my year in 2015. Also, I did reviews for them, so you can scroll back some time back and you can watch my thoughts and views for those albums. Now, from that album, Bryan K went on and released a couple of other tracks. The first track that released after the album was Heavy Machine, which is the track that introduced him to the majority of Zimbos. It's on an Afro house kind of tip, and then he switched again his sound to a more, Afro dance kind of fusion on the track Ndopenga featuring Dobadon, and that track is also included in this album. After that, I released the track Forever, which is another beautiful track. It's on this Afro, soulful kind of tip. I love that gem. And not towards this album, he released the track Pole Pole, which is getting quite a lot of airplay on a lot of radio stations at the current moment. If you look at his past years, these past 3 years since he released his first album, you could see Kuti, in terms of music, he's experimenting much more with his music, with his sound. In a way, you could say he's evolving in terms of how he wants his music to sound. And not him naming this album Evolution K is definitely spot on, because it really shows an evolution on the part of Bryan K in terms of his sound, in terms of his music. Now, this album has been out for a couple of weeks now, and I've been listening to this album. And I have to say, this album really shows how much Bryan has evolved. And I've categorized it into two parts, which really show the amount of evolution that has occurred. Now, the first part talks about themes that he tackles on this album. Now, if you look at his last album, he was only talking about love. Well, the album is also called Zerudo, so you definitely know when you're about to listen to the album, it's all about love. But on this new album, he sort of expanded. He showed his other socially conscious side. That's why you get tracks such as Majins Waere. And on this track, is just edging the men. Be role models in your families. Respect your wives, respect your mothers, respect your sisters, respect. Just be the role model. And do you want to find Sababa? Do you just lead by an example? Show your kids you can live the life you want, by following an honest life. And also we get the track Chengetana, which is the first track on the album. And on this track, Bryan K was just urging for Zimbos to have peace, love, and unity amongst us. Just be mindful. Even with your neighbor, which you gotta check up on them. So on this track, is just urging us to have love amongst ourselves. And also we get the track Kumusha. This track is quite deep. What this track is talking about, is about that situation where Kuti, you're trying a lot of things, and just as it seems as if everything everything try to. So Bryan K was just basically saying, Chimbozokera Kumusha, go back to where you started. Take an audit of your life. Because for some maybe because way back then you're someone who take advice when advice was presented to you, but right now you're full of pride. You have left some of those things that made you a better person, so you're just saying for some it's because your family, so just go back, mend those relations. And also still on that socially conscious tip, we also get the track Ehuwe. And Ehuwe is, I think, for what what is, can I call it a sound, a phrase, but something that we do when you want anyarare. And Bryan K is just doing the same to all the Zimbos who are facing a hard time at the moment, do not lose hope, zvichanaka, mirai kuchema, musarambe muchichema, it's going to be okay. And also another track is Chimbomirai, and this track is arguably my favorite track on this whole album. I love the instrumental on this track, but basically on this track what he's talking about, I think a lot of albums these days, when it's a one song, you guys see about the haters, those people who just want to pull you down, those people who don't want to see you succeed. And this is that track on Bryan K's album, Chimbomira, I don't know what Chimbomira is, Chimbomira is, you know what, the Lord has blessed me, regardless of what you're saying. So these are the tracks, where he sort of deviated from his usual love kind of theme. And all the other tracks on the album, they're all about love, and Bryan K is very good when it comes to love, relationships. And you can see as you listen to all the other tracks on this album, like I say, I'm not going to talk about those tracks. If you want a more in-depth review, just head on to my blog, like I said, proudsimba.blogspot. You can see a track by track review, but just know what all the other tracks, and besides the Andataura, they're all about love. Now, the other part which shows how much Bryan has evolved comes in terms of the instrumentation, the instrumental arrangements, and the overall sound. Now, if you compare it to the last album, Nyadzerudo was, he did not really deviate that much from his sound. He stuck to his sound, to this Afro jazz, Afro soul kind of sound. Yes, he would try to spice it up, putting some rumba elements, but he stuck to the core. He knew the sound that he wanted, and he went for that sound. It was, I could say, it was much more controlled. Now on this album, he sort of expanded. He was a bit more expansive in terms of how he wanted his music to sound and be arranged. Now one track that really highlights all of these Zanduktaura is that if you listen to the track Chimbomirai, now this track is a fusion of a lot of genres. It has some rock elements, it has some Afrobeat, it has some very, very good guitar work. The track, the instrument will just be changing, and the transition, they're done very, very well. And it just gets much better. So it just shows how much Bryan K is willing to experiment with his sound. Now also on the track, one thing I love is that the thing that stood out from his first album is that Bryan K's music always has a lot of soul in it, and that is because of the way he sings and his awesome guitar work. And I was very much afraid that he says his type, moving to a more pop kind of sound, he's going to leave that side of him. I remember ndakambosangana naye at the time ndichomubvunza about that kuti ndaraka hopefully I see right now not the sound your music, you're going to this Afro pop, to this more pop kind of sound. Hopefully I'm supposed to see a guitar, because for me the guitar work was one of the major things that drew me to Bryan K, and he reassured me that I'm such the guitar work. There will be guitar work in all my music. Yes, I'm changing my sound, but some of those elements I'm going to maintain them. And he really stuck to his promise, stuck to his word, because the album is laced with a lot of beautiful guitar work, especially on the love songs. And like I said, Bryan is very good when it comes to the love songs. And I also love that, like on the track, say, this was one of those tracks that was released way before the album was released. I think it was released last year, say. And on this track, on this album, he gave us another version which is more soulful, more to the Afro soul kind of sound, and it sounds very, very good. For me, I think I prefer that sold out version from the first version, the Afrobeat kind of sound. But regardless, like I said, the instrumental arrangements, he's much more daring. He's willing to try. He's really trying to fuse a lot of elements into his music. And if you listen to this album, after listening to the past album, you can definitely hear the change. You can definitely feel and hear where you could this guy is really trying to expand, to push his sound much more. And still talking about not maintaining the soulfulness of the album in terms of vocal performances. So he delivered a solid vocal performance throughout this whole album. His voice, it really shines on these Afro jazzy kind of tracks. I don't know, maybe it's just me, but just go listen to the just listen to the whole album. Think that where does Bryan K's vocals really shine? For me, I think on those Afro jazzy kind of tracks. But also, he definitely improved in terms of vocals. His vocals are still distinctive, which okay, this is Bryan K, but he has much more control over his voice. He has much more vocal control. So you can see what he's definitely improving, and is improving in the right way. And also, still on that socially conscious tip, we also get the track Ehuwe. And Ehuwe is, I think, for what what is, can I call it a sound? A phrase, but something that we do when you want anyarare. And Bryan K is just doing the same to all the symbols who are facing a hard time at the moment, to do not lose hope. Zvichanaka, mirai kuchema, musarambe muchichema, you know, it's going to be okay. So it's also quite another lovely jam. So in summary, that's basically it for this album, Evolution K. Now, comparing it to his previous album, Nyaya Zerudo, I have to say, you know, this album is definitely a worthy follow-up to Nyaya Zerudo. It's not better than Nyaya Zerudo, or maybe even equal. It's Shika at that level, but regardless, it's an album that you can listen to, it's an album that you can enjoy. But I don't know in terms of the staying power. I don't know, because like me, I'm still enjoying tracks from his last album, tracks such as Nana Marunjeya, Matida, or Sasianineni. So I don't know if there is any track on this album that can have a similar staying power like those tracks, because they are those tracks under Vakutawara and Matida, they're still sounding very, very good. But regardless of that, this album is quite solid. I feel it's much more compact as compared to his last album, because on his last album there is probably one half of the album was very, very strong, which is the half in my songs and order. Then the other half, it was not so memorable, and I think the good half it covered for the album as a whole. But on this new album, it's much more compact, it's much more solid. I think the tracks, they're all on the same wavelength. Yes, there are some tracks that may stand out, tracks such as Chimbomira Jojo, but all of the other tracks, they seem to be on the same wavelength, and because of that, it's much more compact. You don't feel the need you have to skip this song or kuramba repeat one more song, which is if you listen to his album Nyaya Zerudo. But regardless, not Nyaya Zerudo, for me still remains his best album. Now, my overrating for this album, I give this album a 7 out of 10. It's quite a good album. Like I said, it's a worthy follow-up to his first album. I definitely recommend this album. You can take a listen to it. So for those who have managed to listen to this album, go in the comment section below. Tell me what you think about this album. Tell me what's your favorite track on this album. Tell me how much do you think Bryan K has evolved. Maybe in terms of his evolution. But you know what? Go in the comment section. Tell me. I'll be reading the comments. I'll be responding to your comments. After that, come back, like the video, subscribe to the channel. See you again next time.